Let's talk about selecting stitch settings such as stitch length, needle position, and stitch width. So when you start the machine and you come up to the A2 stitch, a straight stitch in the center needle position, you can go ahead and just start to stitch and see what that looks like. But if you want to make the stitch length longer, so here where it says 2.5, and if I plus it, notice the numbers are going to change to a blue number. The blue number means I'm no longer on the default setting for that stitch. And I can actually stitch and change it all at once. So don't be afraid to do your adjustments while you're sewing so you can kind of see how they look. Now I like to stop with the needle in the down position because then the foot hovers and I can easily turn my fabric and head back the other way. So I can see my stitch has gotten longer as I went all the way up, and the longest setting is 6 millimeters long. Now along this area we can also do for a straight stitch needle position. So even though the needle is down, you can change needle position because it won't actually change until you bring your needle to the highest position. And so that's again something you can do while you're sewing. You actually have 29 needle positions. So since this machine will stitch 7 millimeters wide, you can go 3.5 millimeters to the right and then also 3.5 millimeters to the left, 0, 0 being the center. Notice it went to a black number when it got back to the default setting. But let me show you something really easy. Let's say you've moved needle position, you've changed stitch length, and you want to go back to normal. If you just select stitch number 2, look, everything goes back to the black number. So that's a quick way of kind of clearing it out. Another way to clear it out would be to just choose another stitch and then come back to the stitch that you wanted to clear. So touching the same stitch or going off of it and coming back will also clear it out. Now, stitch number 9 is your regular zigzag. So as you're zigzagging along, you do find that you can adjust the width, and again, you can go all the way up to 7, and then your length, you can also make it exactly what you want. By the way, this is actual size, so if you're a very visual person, you're going to notice that your stitch is actually going to come out that wide. So let me show you something else with your stitches here. Let's just go back to normal. So it's a zigzag hanging out in the center needle position, and you can make it wider and narrower down at the bottom. But you also have this little white toggle switch that showed up when we picked the zigzag. And that's because when you touch the toggle switch, you actually now have needle position, and you can adjust the stitch to be kind of left justified or right justified, depending on how you're guiding it in or on your fabric or with your foot or with one of the red lines that's on the presser foot itself. So it's really nice to have that feature. So if you ever see a toggle switch, that means there's something that area will be able to use 2 different ways. So one way is with the stitch width, and another way is your needle position. For example, this is another one where you have pressure, foot pressure, and then also the thread portioning or tension area of the machine. So just watch for those little guys. There's one right up here, so if we would touch that one, it would switch over to embroidery or back to sewing. And again, when you want it back to a normal setting, just touch stitch number 9 or the stitch you're on to go ahead and clear out those settings.